Chris?
In general, do you feel like you have the versatility on defense to do far more than you could a year ago?
Yeah, I think we are a little bit more versatile just because of the understanding of things. But you do have a lot of new guys, and their abilities are a little bit different. So, you do want to have the versatility, but you want to balance it with doing things that we know we can do and we can execute at a high level. So that's always the trick with coordinating, right? I mean, you can draw up as many plays as you want, but it's what can we do effectively and efficiently, and so we need to always balance that right there.
Ira?
How'd you feel looking back at the scrimmage from Saturday?
Yeah, I think you had some individual performances that were good. Jordan Crutchfield, he showed up for the first time in some ways that he hadn't shown before. With his effort and playing hard, and then he had a great interception on a ball thrown. He went over there and he took the ball out the air, so that was great to see. Karan Maycock, he made two plays that you're just like, that's why you're here. Athletic and fast and explosive. Some other guys played well, but overall we didn't play with an edge. And that was sad to see, because the practices leading up to it, that's the one thing that they brought was an edge, and it wasn't always perfect schematically wise, but they made up for it with their effort and their intensity. Well, that didn't show up on Saturday, and so it was a great learning lesson. Where you have, when you do it, how it's supposed to look with the intent, it looks great, and you can win a lot of football games, and then you go out there on Saturday and you don't have that edge, and no matter if you did everything right, you're just not playing ball the way it needs to be played. So great learning lesson for the guys leading into these last practice today. They went out there and was really, they responded. So that was great to see. But I think this will propel us into having a great offseason.
Brendan?
You mentioned the team responding well out there today. I'd be interested in who responded well, who led the charge, I guess, with that. But just and then collectively for the group to do that, I know that was the thing last year. You guys wanted to learn how to respond to things better.
Yeah.
To see that, I guess, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we're preaching to the guys, right? That you can be coach inspired, but every good team, every championship team, they're led by the players. Plain and simple. Like, when hard times come, it's the players deciding, hey, we're gonna do things this way. You know what I mean? When good times come, it's the players deciding, hey, like, what's next? Like, be water. You know what I mean? So I think that's the thing with all the new guys coming in here, and you have certain leaders back from last year, like Deuce and everybody listening to, and Dan, and then you have an emergence of the other guys that are coming in here, and guys who played well last year, and they know their roles increased and expanded, so they're starting to speak up. So I think the biggest thing is making sure that this is a player-led team, and both when days are sunny and when stuff ain't going right. And that's the great thing about adversity for the scrimmage is, I want to see who's going to step up, from defense, who are the guys that are going to be in the huddle in the grass saying, hey, let's go, coach, we got this, and bring everybody together and just kind of settle everybody down and go out there and execute and make one play to turn the whole deal around. So that's a big thing that we need to continue to focus on leading up into the summer.
The first practice we were able to watch a little bit, they were doing a drill where just punch the ball out.
Yeah.
Karan punched the ball 30 yards. I mean, has he been that way from day one, just full
Yeah, he's really cool to see his maturation process. Like with all those young guys, they're here because they're athletically gifted, but then when you see the knowledge behind it, when you see now they're starting to play hard, when you see the all the time spent in the VR room and in Ernie Sims' office and all those things, and when it comes to fruition on the grass, that's awesome to see. And he's one that's coming up. His intensity, his focus, his just passion to play. You see him starting to show up a lot, which is awesome for that room. So,
Bob?
I was going to ask you about the freshmen too, but I mean, how much has that VR room maybe helped with the development of some of these guys who are enrolling early, and maybe you can see their progress through 14 practice? Yeah,
I mean, Coach Norvell says all the time, all this stuff is nice, but if we don't use it, it's not helping. You know what I mean? So I know Coach Sims and those backers have used that VR room. I know that walkthrough room is getting used. You know, the ability to go into a meeting and then literally like install something and in 2 minutes be out there walking around and showing everything and then go back into the meeting room, things like that. Like all this that was afforded to us by the people who support the program. I mean, it's awesome, you know, and we want to just continue on building on using it the right way so guys can get all those mental reps as they develop into what we do. So,
Peter?
Coach, with Jalen Anderson, you specified him before, you know, having to adjust from playing junior college to playing at the Florida State at a high level. You mentioned about him just having to go hard every rep or take advantage of all the opportunities. You know, how you coach that up with a guy like him who's still trying to adjust to the speed of the game, and like what is the real actual ceiling when you see the guy like Jalen who has all that tools to become as great as you want him to be?
yeah, that's with a lot of people. That's a great question over there, Pete. The you know, it's all habits, man. It's just habits, and the biggest thing is what does it look like? I mean, sometimes you go and you don't know what it looks like or what it feels like, and then you do something, and when you do it the right way and it looks right, those need to be positively affirmed. You know what I mean? Like, hey, that's what it is. That's what it looks like. And then conversely, when it doesn't look right, you need to say, hey, that ain't it. And so with Jalen, like, he's slowly coming along. He's slowly doing those things right, and it's showing up and just consistently showing him like, hey, look, when you play the way you're supposed to play, when you play hard as hell and you're physical as hell, like, he makes plays. Like, he finds a way to make plays. And then when you watch the plays that he gives up, you know, he's not physical, he's not busting his ass, he's not doing those things like that, then you know what? Then you're giving up a play. So pretty soon they get it. You know, they see like, man, if I do this A and B and I do it as hard as I possibly can, I'm physically as I possibly can, then good things happen. And it's just that constant reaffirmation of this is what it looks like, this is how we do it. And he's gotten better. I mean, again, in the scrimmage, there's some plays he couldn't be blocked. You know what I mean? It's just plain and simple. Him and Ryland, like there's some plays they can't be blocked, and then there's some plays that they give up just because they didn't execute at a high level. So it's with everybody though. I mean it's everybody. We had, you know, Diggs same way. You know, I don't think enough is being spoken about him. You know, we bring him over and you go back and watch the film and he's twitchy and he's in the backfield a lot, like he's causing issues, and then he gets hurt, so you don't really know his impact, but then you see what he's capable of doing out here right now. And again, he's another guy that's hard to block. When he wants to go, he is hard to block. And you know, you see it on tape where he goes and he executes at a high level and he does it with some intensity. Can't block him. But then you see sometimes where he's lax and stuff, and then he jumps off sides on the third down, or he doesn't pinch the right way and make a tackle for a loss when he, you know, and the ball gains 8 or 9 yards. So it's with everybody, man. It's everybody. There's a lot of talented guys up there who want to do it the right way. So we just need to continue to hone in on the way that we can get them to do things. Show when they do it right, and be positive that way, and then make sure some things are not acceptable when they do it wrong.
Brendan?
Who are the guys that are tone setters in that regard? Like I remember last spring you did this year as freshman year. Yeah, I think that's the energy is what it needs to be like. So who are the ones who are kind of guiding that you're going to rely on, you know, as the season goes on?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dan up front has earned the right to be able to speak and be heard. And again, he's doing a really nice job in what we're asking him to do and learn all the positions and be a leader. And you know, I'm always lean on him first because I know what kind of season he's capable of having. You know, and Deontay McCray, he's another one who, you know, he just slowly just getting better and showing some things. Now he's not as vocal, but he is a guy who, through his actions, is just consistently good. You know, he's just always doing things the right way. And then that linebacker core really is the group that's probably overall the most boisterous. Those guys, you know, OG. I mean, Blake is quiet, but you know he can ball. The two guys we brought in, Makai and Chris, those guys are got a lot of energy and passion to them. You know, and then I think, you know, corners wise, they're that group. You know, Jabril on the sideline. I think when you guys are out there, you guys can see he's preparing to have a really good season, you know, and his deal, he's one of those leader guys that I need to make sure he understands that, you know, it's his time, right? It's his time to go out there and be a leader, and he's put it on tape what he can do, so now he's got to do it consistently and bring people with him. And so there's a group of guys that need to be talking, need to be heard, and we'll just continue to develop that through the summer.
Liam?
You touched on Jabril, but the secondary as a whole, I know a couple of guys came in and they're learning all the positions in your defense. How do you feel they developed throughout the spring?
Good. I mean, this is the second scrimmage where we had 4 interceptions or whatever. We had a couple called back because a substitution error. You know, Charles had an interception return for a touchdown, but I sent the guy in when they didn't sub, so that was on me. And then he had an interception in the goal line period. Now they called it a sack, but quarterback threw the ball. He undercut something and intercepted it in the end zone. I mean, so definitely way more takeaways so far this spring than there was last spring. You know, just overall. You know, so that's great to see, and a lot of that are those secondary guys. You know, the guys who were here last year maturing and putting themselves in a better position to make plays, and then the new guys coming over with the attitude like, hey, like we're coming to play. They're in the building early, so it's raising a level of competition, and so that's really cool to see with the secondary.
Ira?
What do you, when spring ends, like from there till camp starts, like what needs to happen for this defense?
A ton. You talk about OTAs, you talk about football 101, just going back and really looking at the situations you have. You know, you have your studies on what else do you need to install, you know what I mean, to be good. So you go through and you see like what else do we need to be good to install and start coming up with that schedule. Then you go back and look at all the things you did in the spring and say, okay, consistently, what are we good at and what are we bad at? And if we're bad at something, is it a easy coaching fix or is it throw the hell out the playbook? You know what I mean? So you go back and reassess yourself. Then you got opponent scouting. You know, you want to go and look at your first 4 games and say, okay, like basically game plan against those guys in the summertime and say like, okay, if all things being equal, this is what you did. You know, go back and look at all that stuff schematically. And then lastly, a lot of it is now you come up with the schedule for the summertime in terms of like all the things you need to work on and breaking that down with the time given, you know, with our allotted time, saying, all right, you know, practice 1, this is good, this is bad, this is what we need to work on, this is this. So it's a huge schedule coming up for from now to when those guys report for August, and it's just getting together with coach and getting the time together with all the other coaches and just everybody being on the same page and laying it out so that way we can go execute.
You spoke about takeaways. Sorry, in response to Liam.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the pass rush is getting home better, or the secondary providing better coverage, or are they both working a little bit more harmoniously?
I think that's the one, Chris. Both of them are working together. I think we got a little bit more edgy twitchiness up there for pass rush. You know, like I said, the twins. I mean, the Diggs. I mean, Rylan and Jalen. Those guys being on edge, being able to be on edges and stuff like that. I mean, heck, Pinckney. Some of those young guys too, being able to get on edges and win. And then the secondary, you know, again, when they execute at a high level, you know, they're playing off of each other and you know, they're understanding routes and who's got what, whether man or playing zone or playing match, whatever it may be. You know, just instinctively they're getting themselves in spots that are allowing them to break on balls and get interceptions. So it's fun to see. Like I said, you know, most important thing we can do is get the ball back for the offense, and I think that's one thing in the spring we've been able to continue to take the ball away and, you know, try to punch the ball out and try to get back there. So that's been a huge positive.
Brendan?
You mentioned 5 or 6 edge defender types, just in general the whole front line. So I'm curious, well, like how many guys do you go into this summer thinking that you can rely on in some capacity or another as you start game planning?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have meetings with the guys here coming up this week and next week. So it doesn't stop. You know, there's some young guys that we need a great summer from, because, you know, you figure at least one of them got to play, you know, in there. So they've all done things where you're saying, okay, you could be on the bus, but nothing where you're like, hey, this guy's in the game on the last play of the game to go win it. Like, so we need to develop a little bit more of that right now with those younger guys. But you know, I don't know, because I can't tell right now without going back and looking at all the film, like who would be ready to take on the bus and who wouldn't be right now, numbers wise. So
We'll do 2 more. Ira?
Is Charles Lester, has he done enough this spring to put him in that group that is competing to play in games, or is there anybody else in that younger group that is making that push?
Yeah, I mean, he started to. I mean, again, he had 2 interceptions this last one, and you know, he's starting to trust himself. You know, I think that's the thing with Charles is just he's got to go and trust himself and believe because he has the ability to do it. I think in the younger guys, it's hard to say younger guys because they're either playing or they're new. You know what I mean? So like all the new safeties, I think all those guys can play ball. The younger guy group, I think, you know, I mean, you got Max Redmond, you got Boatwright, you got the Cromartie, and those guys have competed well. Those guys have competed well in the scrimmages and stuff like that. You know, again, giving up plays here and there, but making plays here or there. So I can't really assess, you know, how much they've jumped up. I know they're better, but just depending on, you know, going back and watching the review, comparing like, hey, are they going to start or not? That part I don't know yet. But Charles is one, definitely. You know, again, Zay Thomas, he's done some good things this spring. I just need to see where he's at. And then again, but I mean, you got Neo, the guy I'm going to talk about right now, you know, and I would knock on wood. But again, to me, Q is like a young guy because he ain't played. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's a veteran and mature in terms of age and stuff. But to me, he's like a young guy who's got to go out there and just take it. And again, so far, this spring is the best that I have seen him on and off the grass, and it's translating to that around him. And so it would be great if Q comes out and he has a season where he's an all-conference performer and he proves that to be true. You know what I mean? So we'll see what he does.
Chris, last one.
Is Whitley a young D lineman who has a shot based on what you've seen through 14?
Yeah, he's a guy who has a shot. You know, ultra talented, still new to football. Naturally, he's got great. I mean, he's 6'6". He's gained 20 pounds since he's been here. You know, with those guys, so he's definitely flashed some ability to be a really good defensive lineman here in the future. You know, he's got some issues though. I mean, as he grows into his body, you know, he's a pup, so he doesn't know what playing hard is, and he doesn't understand that he needs to know what the hell to do. You know, when everybody's going left, you can't go right, and that's where touchdowns happen, things like that. So he's got some growing to do as well as you know Ernest Rankins and Whitley could do, and those guys. But of all those young guys, he's consistently made the most plays naturally. Like he's consistently like locked somebody out, tossed them to the side, and just made a tackle. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of upside with that young man. It's gonna be fun to watch him grow.
Okay.